Hey, welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. 103 right now. Temperatures a balmy 20 degrees outside, but it feels closer to 3 degrees due to a south wind at 23 miles per hour. It is starting to turn into a windy afternoon. I'm meteorologist Justin Storm. I'm here with Ag Director Bridgette Readel and Dean Wysocki. He's playing hooky, so I think we can crack a few jokes at him today while he's listening to us wherever it is that he's on his way to. Bridgette, how's your day going on this finally Friday?
You know, I got to bring up one last remnant of the storm earlier this week, and that was when I went to get my pickup at the airport this morning. There was so much snow packed into my tires from the wind. It actually shook my vehicle until I can get all that snow thawed out of there.
Yep.
So that was a good one, guys. Nice work.
Yeah, no problem. You know, I had ran into a kind of a similar situation in years past, but just the other day I was out and I was driving down the road and I was coming up on this car. They're doing like 65 miles an hour on the interstate, and I'm like, man, the roads are fine. What's going on? And as I get closer, the whole back end of his car is just shaking, and I'm like, what in the world is happening to this vehicle right now? And I pull up next to him, and his front tire is just caked with snow. It's shaking the whole car. I'm like, buddy, you need to get out and shuffle that out of your wheel while you are going to destroy your car.
Yeah. It was a good one, and I'm just hoping that as you've been talking about the upcoming week, maybe see something happening outside our region, so we don't have that. Maybe I'm wrong. I was really hoping maybe we could avoid being in the bullseye next week.
Yeah, that's we're talking about a storm system coming in Wednesday, Thursday, a pretty sizable one as well as what it looks like right now, and the core of this storm is going to be to our south. It's just how far north does the northern edge of this storm lift into North Dakota. And when I'm talking about a pretty sizable storm, I'm talking about a pretty consistent large band of snow extending from northern Nebraska into southern South Dakota, or southern North Dakota. So this is a pretty decent storm. It's completely engulfing South Dakota is the way it looks like right now, and then rolling into Iowa, southern Minnesota, and then Wisconsin. So if you have traveling plans for the middle and end of next week, make sure you stay up to date on that forecast because it is going to be nasty for a lot of people as we head into Wednesday night and Thursday afternoon. But the big question is, it's just how much snow exactly are we going to get? Right now, the moderate to heavy snow looks to be setting up south of I-94, and that's really dependent on how much cold air pulls down out of Canada. So something we're keeping a very close eye on, and we'll touch on that forecast a little more in detail as we head throughout the show. And we got some other fun things going on today. We got a few ag topics that we're going to try to get to today. And I just actually heard that report about that train derailment, that they're finding contaminated waters in the riverways and it's killing fish, and that's unfortunate. So maybe down the road, maybe we can see if we can maybe find someone who can elaborate a little bit more into that, what that might be doing for the agriculture community, you know, when they start getting a little more information and more reports start coming out on it, so we're actually giving real information and data instead of just speculative stuff.
I would agree with that, and I would much rather, much like we did back in June when the right weather conditions happened in Kansas and we saw a loss of livestock, we're going to try to do the same thing, where we'll find someone who's closer to the true information. We don't just want to speculate. We want to give facts and figures. And we will do that along with updating the weather. And also we're going to talk with Randy Nelson, Clay County Extension Educator. And we'll talk about getting ready for our summer gardening and yard season. And we're going to do all that right after this. So stay with us.
From ABC News, I'm Derek Dennis. The 5 former Memphis police officers pleading not guilty in the last hour to formal charges in the brutal beating death of Tyree Nichols.
This is the first time we're seeing those 5 former police officers in person in court after the beating death of Tyree Nichols. Their arraignment this morning are for charges of second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, and official misconduct. We expect the former officers to plead not guilty, and then after this arraignment, we also expect to hear from Tyree Tyre Nichols' family.
ABC Steve Osunsami. 2 Jewish men in Los Angeles apparently targeted in 2 shootings in 2 days, leaving synagogues. A suspect is in custody, but the community is scared.
I've never seen anything like this. It's something I always hear about in another state or another city, but now that it's hitting my own hometown, I kind of feel like we're back in the 1940s.
That's one neighbor there. The victims are recovering. Voting machine maker Dominion Voting Systems revealing some private conversations in its defamation lawsuit against Fox News. New filings suggest some Fox News anchors didn't really believe that the 2020 election was rigged, quoting some of them word for word in communications behind the scenes that contradicted their work on TV.
As part of its billion-dollar defamation lawsuit against Fox News, Dominion Voting Systems has revealed private communications from the network's top anchors, suggesting they expressed disbelief that Dominion's voting machines rigged the 2020 presidential election, even while promoting the false claims on air.
ABC's Ika Jachi. Meantime, former President Trump's campaign says he did nothing wrong and had perfect phone calls to Georgia election officials after his loss in 2020. That after a final grand jury report says there was no widespread voter fraud in the state, but some witnesses may have lied under oath and could face perjury charges. Again, the former president's campaign says he did nothing wrong. You're listening to ABC News.
You may know the story of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old boy who was brutally beaten and murdered in Mississippi. But you might have never heard his story if it weren't for one woman, his grieving mother, who turned her son's death into a rallying cry for justice.
A voice said to me, "The world will cry for Emmett Till."
From ABC Audio comes Reclaimed, the story of Mamie Till Mobley. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Wait a minute, you mean now I can listen to GMA any time of the day, anywhere?
Yes, that's exactly what we mean with the new Good Morning America podcast. Listen to all of GMA served up daily straight to you. Oh, Michael.
What? I'm listening to our new GMA podcast. It's really good.
Listen to the Good Morning America podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Subscribe now. It's really good.
At Helping Hands Care, they strive to find employees who are compassionate, ethical, and reliable. Currently hiring for CNAs and homemakers in the Fargo office. They have several different shifts with very flexible scheduling. Apply at helpinghandscareND.com.
It's tough keeping your ride clean this time of year, but let me tell you a little secret. PetroServe USA has great car washes. That's how Jay and Mama keep our rides looking good. I was just at their 45th Street location to fuel up and fill up with that amazing 4 for $4 meal. Pizza, 2 homemade cookies, and a drink. And every Tuesday, it's buy one, get one free on car washes. Stop by today at PetroServe USA, helping America fuel better.
At Helping Hands Care, the key is finding the right people. They are currently hiring for CNAs and homemakers in their Fargo office, full and part-time with flexible schedules. Apply at helpinghandscareND.com.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us 111 on this afternoon. Again, temperatures outside of the FM metro, give or take a couple degrees, around 20 right now. Wind is sustained out of the south at 23 miles an hour, so wind chills are pretty close to 0 degrees out there. I got a question, Bridgette. This came up on a show yesterday, and it was involving around the blizzard that came through the other day and people having amplitude amount of time to know. Basically, they knew this was coming. They know it was going to get bad. And how many people ended up getting stranded out on the roads? I think it was 130 vehicles, a couple hundred people, and there were so many people that needed to be rescued during this blizzard. And it came down to the question, should they have to pay for that rescue?
So do you want my opinion on that, or are we looking for callers to join us at 701-293-9000?
Well, I would love to get the listeners' opinion on this because it kind of, went both directions. But most people, from what I was hearing, they should have to pay for that. And to an extent, I agree with that as well. I mean, if there's no travel advised, and especially if the interstates or the highways are closed and you decide to go out there and risk it and you get stuck on a road that was closed or because travel was not advised, I feel like you probably should have to pay for getting help, having someone come and get you, risking their life, their safety to come help you because you knew it was going to be bad and you decided to go out anyways, and you're going way too fast and you went in the ditch.
Well, I have a little bit of a different tactic for that, or different perspective anyway. And let's go back to others having to go out to help you. Living in a small community, and so many of our listeners do as well, in rural North Dakota and Minnesota, we are ambulance drivers, firefighters, sheriff's department, all those folks who then have to make the extended effort to leave their families and their safety to go out to help someone. I commend them tremendously for doing that. In the instance where ambulances have to go out, in fact, our local ambulance did have to go out in that storm. There's no choice. They're going to have to, and if they get stranded, they're an emergency vehicle. They need help as well. For those who were like, I didn't check the weather and I took off, and you may get trapped, right? You may get caught when the roads close. That's unfortunate for you, but if you knew that the roads were closed, which there were some folks trying to take back roads right around where I live, thinking I'll just go around the closed interstate, there was a reason that the interstate was closed. So, you know, like you said, it's a little bit situational as to why people have their reasons, but overall, I don't think we can stress enough that the danger you put others in when you're out there if you do not need to be. That's vitally important to understand. Yeah, so I'd love if anyone has thoughts, they want to share them with us on that topic. I mean, you go out, roads are closed, no travel is advised. You can't see more than 50 feet down the road, probably end up going too fast like most people drive around here. You get stuck. Should you be responsible for the cost that it's going to cost for someone to come out there, rescue you? And look at what was it? The interstate was closed down by, was it up by Grandin, I believe it was? And that patrol vehicle. Gardner. It probably started at Grandin, Gardner, Hillsboro. That area is historically really bad. But we at one point had the entire interstate closed all the way from Canada to South Dakota. Right. So, I mean, they were directing people off the interstate, and these two cars doing 75 miles an hour, hauling down the road. The one person starts to slow down. The other person's like, oh, I'm going to keep going, and tries to pass around and ends up hitting the patrol vehicle at, I would only imagine, probably somewhere between 60 and 70 miles an hour. I don't know. We have to follow what the officers are doing. They're out there for a reason, and it's unfortunate that they put their lives in jeopardy too, not just in potentially violent situations, but even when it comes to winter weather and traffic in this state, because that's the kind of world we live in today. Is weather can affect us, and it affects us a lot. It does affect us, and it affects everybody. And before we get to Randy Nelson, Clay County Extension Educator, he's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about, houseplants, gardens. Main topic that I want to talk about today is starting your plants by seed for your outdoor garden indoors. Get some tips, what you shouldn't do from Randy. And if you have any questions to go along with our topic for today, 701-293-9000 is the phone number to call to get those questions answered. But let's touch on an ag topic here, because I saw this one and it kind of reminded me of the farm rescue, and we had I forget her name, but she was out of Montana with Farm Rescue, and they put the chair assistance into the combines and tractors. Right, that's two different things. So Farm Rescue is an organization in North Dakota that's a nonprofit that helps come out to, whether it's seeding, haying, or harvesting. The gal you're talking about is with cutting fences, and she does have an occupational therapy business that is directed towards the farm and ranch community. She does actually have a foundation as well that can help deliver additional funds to families who might need that when they are in a time of recovery. So I know I kind of got where you're heading there, and I just wanted to clarify that a couple different things going on. Thanks for clarifying that too. Sure. And you mentioned the wheelchair mounted snowplow, right? This is kind of a cool deal. Now, for those of you who have Google at your fingertips, or if you want to use DuckDuckGo, this is a design that happened at Walsh High School. These students are in South Dakota. Had a couple of sophomores who work with someone who uses a wheelchair full time, but he really wanted to be able to move snow. And so the welding class at this high school, this is part of their ag curriculum, went ahead and figured out a way to build a wheelchair that's got tracks on it and a snowplow in the front. The blade's designed to lift and be lowered by the chair. It uses chains to lock in the blade into its right position. They call it an action track wheelchair with belts like a skid steer loader. And they built it out of square tubing and different plates to swivel up and down and rotate. And right now, they are looking at building more of them as people might need, but it's a pretty cool opportunity to be able to get someone who might need that extra help to help themselves when it comes to moving snow. So it's a pretty neat deal.
Cool concept. And kudos for them to going out and doing it and it actually working for this lady or gentleman that needed it on their wheelchair. And I don't know, I just thought that was super cool, interesting little topic.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty neat that this was a gentleman, his name is Alan Packard, is in the wheelchair, and he reached out to the school and the students, and there's a couple of high school sophomores who said, we can build that, and away they went.
We can do that here. All right, well, when we come back, we're going to get Randy Nelson on the line. Randy's actually on the line with us right now, but we got to catch up with a few sponsors here. But we're going to have Randy Nelson joining us, Clay County Extension Educator. If you got any questions on your house plants, your gardens, your lawn, hey, spring's just around the corner. What are some things I should do for my trees, my shrubs, gardening? A big topic we're going to talk about today is starting that garden a little on the early side with planting seeds indoors, getting them ready for the transplant for when they can survive outside. So if you got questions, feel free to reach out to us, 701-293-9000. Again, that phone number, 701-293-9000. Stay tuned. Weather and Ag in Focus. We'll be right back.
Everyone knows time is money. So don't wait weeks for the IRS to send out your tax refund. Go to Jackson Hewitt instead for up to $3,500 with a no-interest, no-fee tax refund advance loan. With up to $3,500, you could bring home the bacon and bring it home today. Money now instead of later? That's worth its weight in gold. Don't wait weeks for your refund. Go to Jackson Hewitt today. For eligible clients, loans by Republic Bank and Trust Company, details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
In farming, you know being early means you're right on time. That's why the Roundup Ready Extend crop system created the Spray Early Weed Control Guarantee. When you spray before or at planting, you can protect your investment and give your farm an advantage all season long. Find the tools and resources you need to spray early and guarantee your weed control at RoundupReadyExtend.com/sprayearly. Guarantee is subject to program terms and conditions. Read and follow pesticide label directions, IRM, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices.
I think farming picked me. I didn't pick farming. I'm not afraid to try something new. It's my farm, my family, and our future. My Channel Seedsman gets that. I get access to innovative products with personalized advice backed by data to maximize my yield potential. With Channel, I know I'll prosper for years to come.
Define your future at channel.com/future. Read and follow pesticide label directions, IRM, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices. Copyright 2022 Bayer Group. All rights reserved.
How long is the warranty on your car repair? Hi, this is Matthew Carlson, owner of Fix It Forward Auto Care. Every qualified repair at any of our 3 Fargo, Moorhead, and West Fargo locations is now covered by our extended 5-year, 60,000-mile warranty. Yes, you heard that right. 5 years or 60,000 miles. Peace of mind, just one more reason to choose Fix It Forward Auto Care. Ask your service advisor for details. Fix It Forward Auto Care, the name you trust for car repair.
Fix It Forward Auto Care.
West Funeral Home in your difficult time.
Have you planned for all your life's events? At West Funeral Home and Life Tribute Center, we would be honored to have that talk of a lifetime with you. Through pre-planning, we will help honor and celebrate your journey on Earth so you can leave your family a lasting, treasured memory. Discover the difference.
West Funeral Home and Life Tribute Center. Little things make the difference.
Welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. So glad to have you joining myself, Bridgette Readel, Ag Director, along with meteorologist Justin Storm on this fabulous Friday afternoon. And we always like to bring in our favorite friend, Randy Nelson, Clay County Extension Educator, on a Friday. It's a great way to wrap up our week talking about, as we look ahead towards that little bit of agriculture you have in your life, your farm, your garden, your house plants. So, Randy, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Bridgette. Hi, Justin. How are you two?
I'm doing well.
Pretty
Good.
fabulous. Well, the garden magazines have begun to arrive. There's one that came in the mail just this week for me. Should I buy some potting soil? Should I start getting ready? Is it too soon? When do you actually start thinking about getting garden plants ready, Randy?
Well, it's going to depend on what you're growing, but it is certainly not too soon. Again, there's been a push for gardening the past few years. So if you haven't ordered your garden seed yet, I would get that done real soon. You're certainly not late to the game by any means, but if you have favorite varieties, keep in mind some of those could be sold out already. If you are growing geraniums, or if you happen to be growing onions from seeds, those can actually be planted already. In fact, I planted mine just a couple of days ago. So again, there are plants that we can go ahead and start right now. And then coming up in a couple more weeks will be time to start looking at planting your peppers and petunias if you're going to be growing those from seed as well.
Yeah, I got.
Well, considering how often Justin and I are in competition for our garden stuff, I should start mine tomorrow, just so my plants are bigger than Justin's right now.
That ain't gonna help you. You know, Randy, there's so many different at-home ways to start your vegetable seeds, your flowers. You got the little kits you can go out and buy. You can get little 4-inch biodegradable little, I don't know, 2-cup little pots to start your seeds in. You just throw them in. Grow lights, fertilizer. Some people even take it to another level and just go hydroponic. But what would you say would be like an easy way for most people, just entry level? You know, I'm going to start this year. I'm going to start my plants a little earlier so that way they got that head start. What are some ways that they could do it? Maybe some of the more simple, practical ways.
To me, if you are just getting started and you want to increase your chances for success, I would just go out and you can get some of those kits. I'm just going to hold up one here. What you're looking at is just part of what's known as a standard greenhouse flat, and a standard greenhouse flat is about 1 foot wide and about 2 feet in length. And the one that I'm showing right here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it doesn't have any holes in the bottom of it. So that's going to be important, because with this, you can then go ahead and put in other containers. For example, your standard 4-inch black plastic pot, or if you prefer to use peat containers, this is just sphagnum peat that has been compressed together into a biodegradable container. Those can then just sit right into that standard greenhouse flat. And the key here, with no holes in the bottom, you can go ahead, plant your seeds, you get everything watered. You will have water in your container, but it's nicely held in there. You can then take it over to a sink, just tip it up to one of the corners very carefully, and you can get rid of the excess water. And then you can move it about your home, from wherever you have your lights to the kitchen, and that way you are not spilling water all over the place, because you can get the greenhouse flats with holes in them, but again, you're going to be leaking a lot of water and typically making a mess.
Right, and those ones that you are sharing, for those that may not know, we are live streaming on Facebook, YouTube Live. This video will be back as an upload tomorrow, outside of the live video today that'll be available. To go and watch to see these props that Randy has. And Randy, I'm glad you have those, because they're very easy to explain what's going on when you just say a little flat and you see it and you're like, oh, I know what that is. I've seen it before. But those range, there's a large variety in those little containers, the little 2 by 1 foot flats. You get the little ones. There's ones that have inserts that you fill up with dirt. There's little dirt pellets that you add water to and they expand. And I've even seen the ones where they have like a whole separate bottom that goes in there, and it's almost like a rug, and you fill the bottom up with water. The water goes up on the rug, and then you put your dirt pods on top of it, and the water lifts up into it. Is there any advantage to using something like that, or are all of these going to just be valid ways to do it, just however much money you really want to throw at it?
They all should be pretty similar. Just like what you said, Justin, kind of depends on how much you want to spend. The ones that I was showing work well, and that greenhouse flat you had mentioned, you can get inserts for that. And those inserts can be varying sizes from, usually you're going to have about 12 individual, or I should say 12 packs, but each of those packs are going to have a different number of individual holes or cells to plant into. Maybe it's going to be a 4 or a 6 pack. And it kind of depends on what plant you're growing. Tomatoes, maybe you want to be looking at seeding those into a 4-pack. You're going to have a little bit bigger opening, so it means you got more soil. Your plant can get a little bit bigger. The pellets that you had mentioned, they work well too. They're kind of cool if you're brand new to seed starting, or maybe you have children that are going to be involved. Basically, those are compressed peat pellets that have a netting around them. And then once you put them into the container, you slowly add water. As that water moves into and is absorbed into that peat moss, those then start to expand. And then you will have this little container that is full of peat. Usually there's a hole in top, and you can seed right into that. And again, all of those are going to work well. Like you had mentioned, kind of depends on how much you want to spend. Another thing I would keep in mind is that some people overuse their containers year after year, which is fine. If you do that, you will want to sanitize those. Usually it's 9 parts water to 1 part bleach, or maybe you're going to do a little bit higher rate of bleach, and then you're going to soak them, scrub them well, and then usually soak them for at least 30 minutes, then let them dry. I found that it's far easier just to get brand new flats, brand new inserts every year, and then use a purchased potting soil. That way I don't have to worry about potentially harboring any disease from year to year.
Right, and they come with these little flats. And by the way, those little ones you were just talking about, the little peat moss inserts that you put water in and they expand to be, a couple inches tall. Absolutely love that, love the concept, but I've done it for so many years now that I've found it just way more convenient just to skip the little dirt pod and just throw the seeds right into like a little 3-4 inch container, because then I don't have to transplant them in 6 weeks. But those flats, they come with a plastic cover, almost like a greenhouse effect, that it keeps the warmth in there. How long should you leave that cover on top of them after, say, they start to emerge, and what's the importance of removing that plastic cover once your plants do start to kind of break their way out after a point?
Just like you had mentioned, Justin, it does act like a little bit of like a greenhouse in there. So you certainly are keeping in a little extra heat, but you're also keeping in humidity as those plants are growing, and you're going to have transpiration, water loss through those leaves, and then also you're going to have some evaporation from the soil. So what you'll notice on those domes is that they do a great job keeping in that moisture, and then they tend to build up a little bit with water, and there's certainly no harm with leaving that on for a little while after they have germinated. But I would keep a close eye on just how much moisture is building up in there, because sometimes that foliage can remain wet for long periods of time, which is kind of asking for disease to start to develop. So usually once they start to germinate and emerge, I would then slowly take that dome and maybe kind of set it off to the side a little bit so you can get some air movement in there. Once everything is emerged, I typically will take those off. An alternative to using the domes, if you want, for example, I don't use any domes just because I don't like going through at the end of the season and trying to sanitize everything, and I don't want to buy new ones every year. I just use plastic wrap, and I will lay that right over the top of my containers, and then as those seeds begin to germinate and emerge and they touch the plastic, I just start moving that plastic off.
Hey, that's a great idea. I actually hadn't even thought about just throwing a little plastic wrap on it, but same concept, right? Well, Randy, we're going to hit bottom of the hour. I know I've kind of stole you from Bridgette, so I'm going to let her get in on some of her questions that she has, but let Bridgette get a few of her questions in when we come back. I got a few more that are going to involve around, when your plants do get to a growing point, if you're using grow lights, Well, believe it or not, there's actually a schedule that you should give your plants the right amount of light, and it changes as we get through the year. So we'll touch that and then a few other things and get a little closer to when you put them in the ground when we come back. So stay tuned. Weather and Ag in Focus will be back in a couple minutes.
It's been tough talking to my doctor about constipation with belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. I finally laid all my symptoms out there and how they keep coming back. She said I may have irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. We agreed it's time to try something different.
Linzess, or linaclotide, is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess works differently than laxatives. It lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2 years old. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. There could be more to your story with IBS-C. Visit a doctor in person or online. Say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS. Sponsored by AbbVie and Ironwood Pharmaceuticals.
Ew, the toilet sneeze. Every flush spews bacteria onto surfaces that little Bobby touches and then spreads to the light switch and everywhere else in the house. Yuck. So Dad uses Microban 24 to help stop the spread. It's the only sanitizing spray with a long-lasting shield that keeps killing 99.9% of bacteria on surfaces for up to 24 hours. Be confident you're protecting your family with Microban 24. Don't just sanitize it, Microban it.
MyPillow is an amazing company because of all the Minnesotans who work there and their high-quality American-made products. With that in mind, we've got an amazing offer for our listeners on standard MyPillows, and just in time for those who need a great night's sleep. You receive a standard MyPillow, regular price $69.98, now only $19.98. Get the comfort and the sleep you've never gotten before with a MyPillow. You also will receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products, such as MyPillow towels, mattress topper, My Slippers, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square to receive Mike's standard MyPillow for just $19.98, and use promo code WDAY. MyPillow is made in the USA, comes with a 10-year warranty, so you know it's going to last, and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you not only want, but you need. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-875-0644 and use promo code WDAY to take advantage of Mike's special offer on his standard MyPillow. That's MyPillow.com, promo code WDAY, or call 800-875-0644.
Oil and natural gas help provide the things our counties and communities need. Taxes paid by the oil and natural gas industry fund schools, roads, and flood protection across North Dakota. That means we can run our farms and businesses and educate leaders for our future. It's one of the many ways oil and natural gas are making life better in North Dakota for generations. North Dakota's oil and natural gas, advancing the possibilities.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With private healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready. And health insurance is your financial safety net. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, give us a call at 800-664-2612. That's 800-664-2612. 800-664-2612.
Welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette Readel, Ag Director, and I am happily joined by Justin Storm, Meteorologist. And maybe I'm happy that you're joining me, but I'm not sure if Justin's happy he's joining me. It could go either way. So I'll just say it's all good for everybody. Our guest today is Randy Nelson, Clay County Extension Educator, and Randy's answering all of our questions as we start looking forward to spring. I know we just had a blizzard, but the first day of spring is coming in March. It's getting that much closer every day. And Teachers are starting to do all those little kid projects where they're planting seeds in the classroom. I have seen seeds come home planted in eggshells. Now, I realize eggs today are worth their own pot of gold. You pretty much get them in an armored car. But should you be using the eggshell, Randy? Is that a viable method to start your plants, those little tiny seedlings?
Bridgette, that's a great question. I have heard of people doing it. I've seen people start them in egg cartons. I've not seen it done in eggshells, but if you wanted to, I don't see anything wrong with that. Just keep in mind, though, the plant that you are starting in there, since most eggs are not that large, you don't have a very large volume of soil. So I would be a little bit concerned about that plant becoming root bound, depending on how long you're going to keep it in there. It could be the case where you start it in there, it's going to grow for a few weeks, and then maybe you're going to have to transplant that to a different container. Although I think it would be a great conversation piece if you have people over. If you have plants growing out of eggshells, that just sounds kind of cool.
Well, I crush up eggshells and use them when I plant my tomatoes to help prevent blossom end rot so that they get additional calcium. Hey, why not? Here's another way to experiment. Let's switch gears just a little bit before Justin gets into some garden questions. I need to ask a couple things about houseplants, because in my world, a houseplant is just as important as a wheat crop. And I have a great big lemon tree that's growing in my kitchen, but I noticed today when I watered it that there are some exposed surface roots. I realized that I probably need to add some soil to that pot. Can I just dump it on top? Or is there any special technique I should use to try to cover up those roots and get some more soil in the pot?
In a case like that, I think you would be fine to put some soil right on top. I suggest just trying to get a soil mix that is similar to what you have, and then go ahead and cover it by half inch or an inch, and then just try to lightly water that in, so it's not, because that new soil on top without any roots in there, it's going to be moving around a bit. So kind of lightly water that in, and I think you'd be fine.
Well, one more from me, Randy, and we had a great question from a listener wondering, if you bring a lot of perennials inside during the winter months, I know I do as well, like we're talking several dozen plants, does that actually help with the oxygen CO2 cycle in your home? We've always heard as little kids in science, those are great air quality filters. Any thoughts to that?
They are. And, when those plants are brought inside, given sunlight, we know they're photosynthesizing. Even if they're not growing, we know they're respiring. And if they're still living, in order for them to respire, they still have to be photosynthesizing, producing photosynthate, which can then be used during respiration. And as our days tend to get a little bit longer, more photosynthate is produced through photosynthesis. Those plants then start to grow. But during that whole time, we know carbon dioxide is being taken in through the stomata of that plant, as well as oxygen being released as a byproduct through the stomata. So every houseplant, in theory, should be able to, help purify the air in terms of taking out some carbon dioxide and then putting in more oxygen.
That's a good answer. I was kind of wondering that too, because I've always heard that, but I didn't know if it was actually necessarily true. Now, I wanted to get back onto when we left off before the break. We were talking about the different flats that you can use for planting your seeds before, in winter, early spring, before you put them outside. And once they start to emerge out of the ground, and this isn't something everyone needs to do. I'm sure just sticking them in a sunny window would be fine, but I use grow lights on my plants, give them a little extra energy, but it's not there's an optimal amount of light that these plants should be getting, and it kind of changes throughout the year as you get closer to putting them in the ground. And I don't know if you know the exact number on hand, Randy, but from something I remember reading, it was like 16 hours of sunlight on these grow lights, and then they sit in like 6 hours of darkness. Is that true?
For grow lights, usually the standard recommendation for your seedlings, you're going to have them on for 16 hours, and then you'd have them off for 8 hours. I know some people, they might actually have them on for a longer period of time, but generally speaking, 16 hours should be good. That's actually what I use to grow geraniums, petunias, and we do tomatoes and peppers as well. And we've done it for a few years, and they seem to respond quite well to just being on for 16 hours. And these plants aren't getting much for supplemental sunlight. There is a window in the room, but it's a north-facing window about 10 feet away. So again, not much sunlight coming through. So the 16 hours, I think, would be fine. If you're fortunate enough to have a really good maybe east or even southern exposure where you have a lot of sunlight that is coming in, it's possible you could get by actually growing your seedlings on a window ledge. But in most cases, I think people are going to have some supplemental lighting, either using just a cool white fluorescent light, or what I like to use now are LEDs, since they've come down in price, where it's a little more feasible to purchase a 4-foot LED bulb, and gosh, they could even be less than a dozen eggs now, which was not the case a few years ago.
We've used the fluorescent tubes, and we're switching to the LED because, like you mentioned, they're getting cheaper, and it's still a little bit of money, but it's nothing unreasonable, and especially if you do a big garden, you do a lot, it's definitely worth it. Is there any recommendations when it comes to using a grow light? Because you can find them from $20 to, I think I saw one for like $180 for some full spectrum special light. Is there any real difference between these?
For just growing your standard seedlings, the simple answer is no. I don't think you're going to notice any difference in quality, at least nothing that is going to be long-standing. Now, if you are growing maybe more of a specialty crop, perhaps then going with a more expensive grow light might be worthwhile. But again, for your standard seedlings that you are going to be transplanting outside, because they're only inside for a few months, you shouldn't really see any difference. So again, that cool white fluorescent, if you want to go that route, is a good one to use, or using the daylight LED bulbs. They work just as good, and I wouldn't spend the extra money to go with the actual plant lights, or the ones that are sold as a plant light, just because I don't think you're going to get that benefit. And again, I'm talking about growing seedlings that are going to eventually be transplanted outdoors.
Right, and we had a listener comment here. They were wondering, because they do a lot of photography. They have photography lights. Can really any light be used as a grow light? Say photography light, table lamps, your common light bulb that you put in your lamp.
A lot of the LED lights should be able to be used, and for when you look at the cool white fluorescents, they have the blue spectrum, which is going to be important because chlorophyll and some of the tertiary carotenoids and whatnot and other compounds are going to be picking up that light too. So in that cool white, or the bluish range, is going to be important. And then over on the far right, I forget the exact nanometers right now on that light spectrum, they're going to pick up some more there too. So it could be possible with a photography light that would work. I'm not familiar with photography lights, so I'm just not sure what that spectrum is. But if it's similar to a cool white fluorescent or a daylight LED bulb, they should be fine using that. And if you only have just a few plants, you could use just a lamp. It would have like an LED daylight bulb in there, or a cool white fluorescent, and you could just have that put on right over your plants, and that should really be all that it takes to keep those plants healthy.
Awesome. And I got one more before I know Bridgette wanted to ask you, because you got a big webinar coming up here, so we'll touch on that here in just a second. But after your plants are ready to go outside, or maybe before they're even ready to be put in the ground, what's the importance of weaning them into direct sunlight? Because you don't want to just, they're ready to go, I'm going to put them outside for a whole afternoon. You come back, they're bleach white and they're dead. What's going on? What's the importance of that?
Hey,
exactly.
I think
just
Justin
remember,
did that, by the way.
I totally did. You learn once.
You're not alone. Exactly. So it turned out bad, but talk about something you're never going to forget, and you won't do it again.
My babies
But
were
you're
dead,
going
man.
from right. You're going from an indoor environment where you don't have direct sunlight and you have very little wind. Granted, it's probably not real humid, but your humidity is probably around 60% or so, depending on where your plants are located in the room. Now all of a sudden you go outside, that sun is going to be a lot stronger, and the morphology of the plants are different growing inside. The leaves aren't as thick, those stems are not as strong either. So you bring those outdoors, they're real susceptible to wind damage, and again, just that sun beating down on them, you're going to notice some burning. So ideally, you're going to put them on the north side, or at least in an area where there's not going to be much or any direct sunlight, and maybe have them out for a few hours, bring them in, and then slowly over the next couple of weeks, try to let them have more time outside and just start slowly moving them into areas with more sunlight, but really pay attention to wind, because again, especially if they have any height to them, they're going to be really susceptible to wind damage.
Yeah, I've learned that one out the hard way as well. And that just, Bridgette, I'm sorry, we just had an email question come in. They were wondering about the importance of wind, and you had just touched on that, but they wanted to know, would occasionally introducing a fan indoors to the plant seedlings, would that increase their strength at a young age before they get hit with actual wind outside?
Yes, it should. In fact, I know some people will do that with tomatoes and even other ones, other plants, maybe even some of the flowers like marigolds and whatnot. But having that fan blowing, you are going to lightly be moving those stems back and forth, and that will help with strength. And I know some people that have tried every day, they'll go through, they just take their hand and they just rub right across, I shouldn't say rub, but they just drag their hand right across the top of the plants just to introduce some movement, and that's enough to move the stems. And they say that helps too. I think probably having a fan on, having that movement is certainly going to help with stem strength. So they should be a little bit stronger when those plants go outside. Plus, if you have an issue with humidity where your plants are growing, that can certainly help to reduce that problem.
Great.
I do agree about the wind, because I've put plants out and the wind comes up and it's just broken them right off. So I do tend to put some sort of a structure. I have a number of 5-gallon buckets with the bottoms cut off. That's my wind protection that goes over tomatoes, that type of thing. So, there's a lot of variable things that you can do in order to help them out. So, Randy, I know that you have some upcoming webinars for folks to attend. There was one in particular on fruiting trees. Do you want to share that information and how folks could sign up for that webinar?
Yeah, the one on fruiting trees and shrubs is really interesting because it's going to be more geared towards high tunnel production. And if anybody is interested, it is open to, even if you don't even know what a high tunnel is, but you have interest, go ahead and you can go to the U of M Extension website and just click on courses and events. And then you can probably type in fruit trees or fruiting shrubs, and that webinar should pop up, and you can go ahead and register for that one. And again, it is going to be more geared towards high tunnel production. But you know what? If you happen to be in an area where you got a little bit of land, a high tunnel might be something that you could even fit in.
Well, Justin just managed to get himself a backyard, so you just never know.
We're starting a big old garden, Randy. And I wish, before you out, Bridgette, I wish we had more time here, because I got so many more questions. But Randy, we'll have you come back in March, and by that time it'll be around the time people are putting their seed in the little pots, and then we can dive a little bit more into the transition from indoors to outdoors and into your garden, if that works with you.
That'll be great.
Guys,
looking forward to it.
Just like farming, gardening never ends. It's year-round to be planting it in production. So, Randy, if folks want to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
They can reach me by phone, 218-299-7338, or they can reach me by email at nels167@umn.edu.
You'll have plenty of more calls and emails coming in as we get closer to spring. And for those who are listening, don't go away. We're going to catch up with the American Ag Network, and then we'll follow up with the weather and make sure everybody's ready to go for the weekend. Talk talk to you in just a moment.
Can you imagine a stress-free Sunday with family, friends, fun, and great food? You can have it when you make Barron's your new Sunday brunch headquarters. I'm telling you, it's a brunch like no other. First of all, customizable waffle bar. The kids will love it. Fresh scrambled eggs, thick cut bacon, all your favorites. Plus, while Mama sips on a mimosa, the kids can wear themselves out in the arcade at Kingpins. It's a great start to a stress-free Sunday. Mention My Brunch Headquarters and receive 20% off Sunday brunch at Barron's. So make your Sunday stress-free, filled with great food, no cleanup, and most importantly, where family, friends, fun, and food come together for brunch at Barron's. Located off Highway 81 and 52nd Avenue within Kingpins. Go to brunchatbarons.com. That's brunchatbarons.com for details. And don't forget to mention My Brunch Headquarters for 20% off. And experience your stress-free Sunday at brunchatbarons.com today.
You've got advanced prostate cancer, but you're not waiting around. You want straight talk, the facts about a Govix.
Orgovix Relagolix 120 milligram prescription tablets is a treatment for adults with advanced prostate cancer. Fact: Orgovix is a different kind of androgen deprivation therapy treatment, a pill, not an injection. Orgovix may cause serious side effects, including a heart condition called QT prolongation. Tell your doctor right away if you feel dizzy, faint, have a racing or pounding heart, or chest pain. Orgovix can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during treatment and for 2 weeks after Orgovix treatment. The most common side effects include hot flushes, increased blood sugar and blood fat levels, muscle and joint pain, decreased blood hemoglobin levels, increased liver enzymes, tiredness, constipation, and diarrhea. Other side effects include weight gain, decreased sex drive, and erectile function problems. Orgovix may cause infertility. Talk to your doctor if infertility is a concern for you.
Go with a Govix. Ask your doctor. For more facts, visit gowiththefacts.com.
Markets were mixed for most of the day. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risvet with this closing market. Traders showed caution ahead of this three-day holiday weekend. President's Day is Monday. Markets will be closed, while focus will remain on South American weather over the weekend. The CFTC's commitment of traders report will be postponed for at least one more week, while grain futures will resume trade Monday evening. Market bulls have put much of their hope into China's economic recovery following 3 years of COVID lockdowns and restrictions. Those signals remain mixed to this point. Chinese data shows that 4.73 billion passenger trips were made during their spring travel rush, which was only 54% of pre-pandemic levels in 2019. However, data from the 7-day Lunar New Year holiday saw travel numbers at 90% of pre-COVID levels. Data from China's Civil Aviation Administration showed that 55.2 million people traveled by air during the 40-day window. That is up 39% from the previous year, but that was just 76% of pre-pandemic levels. So we have seen a surge in economic activity following the COVID outbreak when restrictions and lockdowns were lifted, but the numbers are still struggling to get back to pre-COVID levels. That's expected to change as we go through the year, which is expected to increase global crude oil demand by nearly 1 million barrels per day. China is expected to account for a large portion of that. Restaurant activity is picking up. We don't have a lot of data on that yet, but we do expect to see an increase in demand for the food commodities as people enjoy the freedom of going out to eat again. Let's get a look at the closing commodity numbers. March corn up 1 3/4 at 6.77 3/4. March beans up 3/4 at 15.27 1/4. Bean oil March down 39 at 61.51. Wheat Chicago March up a half at 7.65 1/2. Kansas City March up 8 at 9.06 1/2. And the March Minneapolis wheat that was down a half at 9.29 3/4. Live cattle February up 80 at 163.57. Feeders March up 30 at 186.52. And the April lean hogs they were down 50 cents at 85.27. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Ristvet.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. 156 on this afternoon. Temperatures reaching into the 20s right now, and I know everyone is kind of curious about, well, what's the weekend going to look like, and how about that storm next week? And Bridgette, I know that might be affecting you because you're traveling again.
Once again, I thought I was in the clear, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be something happening, like you said, Thursday of next week. And I would like to see if you could fix that. If you could shift that storm track, maybe make a little bit less snow happen. Just let me know. I know you got the power, man. You can do this.
I got the magic 8-ball right here, so we'll ask the magic 8-ball if it's going to snow on Thursday. And it says definitely. Okay, so that was the LRC 8-ball says definitely going to snow on Thursday. So let's actually run down what the weekend's going to look like. We'll touch on that storm here in just a second. So what we're looking at for the rest of today, partly cloudy skies are going to dominate the area. Wind is going to be on the breezy side. It's out of the south at 23. It will gust as high as 35 throughout this afternoon, but begin to relax throughout this evening. Temperatures will peak near 29 today. Cool things down to about 12 tonight. Could see a couple light flurries with a west wind around 5 to 15. That 5 to 15 mile per hour wind turns out of the south for tomorrow on Saturday. It will be partly sunny. There will be some pockets of sunshine, but clouds will thicken up as we head throughout the day. Could see a few flurries in the northern valley throughout the afternoon. A few flurries for the southern valley into your Saturday night. On Sunday, another Clipper system rolls through, brings a few scattered light snow showers. Doesn't look like a big deal. Light dusting to an inch for some of us. Temps will be in the mid-20s. And as we head into next week, a second Clipper system, a little bit more robust one, comes in on Monday. So Sunday, Monday will be a little breezy. Light snow showers on Monday, a little bit more snow on, or light snow showers on Sunday, a little bit more light snow on Monday, where we could see a couple of inches of accumulation on that system. The bigger storm system that we're keeping a close eye on rolls in Wednesday evening into your Thursday afternoon. Most of this looks to be staying to our south. With the core of the storm, South Dakota looks to be getting hit the hardest. Basically, most of South Dakota in general will turn windy, could maybe see some blizzard conditions down throughout that area. That storm system will then push into southern Minnesota, Iowa, and then Wisconsin. Keep up to date on that part of the forecast if you have traveling plans the middle of next week. We're kind of, right now, what appears to be on the northern fringe of that moderate to heavier snowbound. Definitely don't think that we're going to escape all of this, but it really depends on how much Arctic air floods down for next week. And that will all start on Tuesday. We'll have high temperatures sliding into the single digits. How far down that cold extends will really limit how much snow that we're going to get. But right now, it does look like we could be looking around 6 inches of snow. That will more than likely change over the next few days. So stay up to date. We'll give you additional updates over the weekend and into the beginning of next week as that storm system finally makes its way on land.
Yeah, we'll talk because I was going to go somewhere. So, oh well. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate that. At least I know what my weekend weather is going to look like.
Yeah, no problem. And make sure you stay tuned next week. We'll touch on that forecast. Got a lot of great guests on there. Bridgette, I don't know if we have enough time. No, we don't. We're just out of time. That's going to do it for us here on Weather and Ag in Focus. A lot of good guests tomorrow or next week, so stay tuned. This is Weather and Ag in Focus. We'll be back on Monday from 1 to 2. The Jay Thomas Show's coming up next.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM. Fargo More.